Hello there, I'm back with the second flower of the day, the tutorial for it. And this is basically a rosette. The inspiration was to try to make my own rosette trim. Yeah, or at least the rosette flowers individually. I think I probably used a little bit too much fabric on this, or I rolled it too close together, but I'm going to try a little bit different approach on this one and see how it comes out. I've also got myself a pretty piece of pretty sheer fabric. Let's see how that works out. You'll need cut circle any size you want. I'm using a square because for me, I can try to get, when I'm doing things like this, I can try to get it in the center, but it always ends up being skewed. So I'm going to start with a square and see if that's any easier for me. I've also glued down 2 layers of this particular fabric on top of the square so that if anything shows through from the bottom part, it's going to be the fabric. I definitely rolled it so tight last time that you can't see any of it through it. But I'm going to try to do it a little bit looser this time, and I don't necessarily want to see the paper. I want the whole thing to look pretty. And do whatever size you want. And this, again, I didn't measure. I just took a piece off, but this one is, let's see, about 3.5 inches wide, and let's see what the length is. And I don't know that I'm going to use all the length. I mean, I just did it on the length that I had. 36. It's about 46 inches or so, so it was the width of the fabric. So what I'm going to do, and you might want to have some straight pins handy also, and you will need your glue gun for this. Okay, set the square aside for a little bit. So what you're going to do is roll, just fold over a little bit of your fabric and roll a couple times. Let's see, I'm going to try to go a little bit smaller height on this. 2, 3, and I'm going to pin a couple places. So when you're working with a long length like this, it can be a little bit tricky. But the key is going to be you want to have a little bit of edge, just single layer edge. So I'm just going to go down the length here and see if I can get this all rolled down fairly evenly. This fabric is a little bit slick, so it might be a little bit tricky, but I'm sure going to try. Let's see. This fabric isn't real pliable either, so you know, a cotton might be easier to, well, a cotton was definitely easier to do this part with. But me, I've always got to try to make it a little more difficult for myself. That's just what I do. Making sure again to leave some exposed edging. This isn't coming out quite as cleanly as I'd like it. So let me just play a little bit more, see if I can get it a little tighter. It is a little bit tricky when you've got this length of fabric. And I probably won't even use the whole length, but I want to have enough just in case, especially since this is thinner. And if you're working with the cotton, it is not going to be nearly as slippery as this is, so it'll be a lot easier. So when the first one, you might want to do a cotton unless you want to challenge yourself. But don't challenge yourself so far that you get frustrated with it and give up on it, because it is worth doing. Okay, so I've gone all the way down. I'm pinned. I have an edge that doesn't have any kind of layering on it. So now what I'm going to do is actually use some glue and slightly lift up where the folded part meets the exposed part. So you've got your top fold here. That's your very top, and it's just a smooth roll. If you're looking at it like this, you're going to lift up this part just slightly, and right on that edge, just every here and there, a little bit of glue. You do not want to get the glue up by that top clean folded edge. And you'll see why once we get going. Glue is hot. Be careful. Okay, another glue stick. And as you glue, you can just take your pens out. Hot, hot, hot. So I'm just tapping it down a little bit just to make sure that it's adhering. Probably better to work on a non-stick mat too. Just trying to work on this cardboard so that you can see a contrast. And just a little bit of glue right under that fold. And the glue is basically taking the place of the pins, because you don't want pins in your flowers, in your finished flowers. Just a little bit under there. I mean, you can go down the entire length if you want to, if that makes you a little bit more comfortable. Okay, so let me just show you. So I'm taking out the pins, and I'm just here and there gluing it down so you can see it's not going to slip and slide anymore. You've got your folded pieces basically in one piece now, where it's not going to go anywhere. And it doesn't matter if your edging isn't completely straight, because you're really not going to see that. One more little area. Okay. Okay, so I've got a long strip where the folds are secured, and I have some exposed edging. So now you're going to take your circle or your square or whatever you're going to work with, and hopefully I can explain this. This exposed edge is the part that you're going to be gluing down onto your circle, so that it's basically going to be like that, where your folded part is going to be standing up and your exposed part is going to be glued down. So let me put a little bit of glue there. I'm probably going to burn the heck out of myself with this fabric being so thin. Okay. So that's what we have. And I have the folded part where it actually rolls in. I'm putting that on the inside of the flower. And you'll see a little better once I get a little further into this. But what I'm going to do is take this, I'm going to put a little more glue there and just squash down just that end, just to make a little center. And I'm going to be turning my cardstock, and every now and then I'm going to glue down the exposed part of the fabric. So let's see if I can get it on correct angle here so that you can see. Okay, so I'm rolling it around with the exposed part on the inside, and I'll put down a little bit of glue to hold down that exposed edge so that the rest of it will stand up. And like I said, on the first one that I did, I think I wound it a little too tight. So I'm trying to go a little bit looser this time. Okay. So I've got it wrapped a little bit. I'm holding on to the exposed edge. And I'm going to put some glue down and get that exposed edge secured down to the cardstock. If I can find my spot of glue. I'm trying not to get in my own way here so that you can see. Okay, so you might be able to get a better idea now. And you're just going to keep going around until you have as much as you want. And don't worry about the height right now, because we're going to do something else once everything is glued down the way we want it to be. And this is me with a fiddly fabric. Just had to do it. I'm going to glue down a couple more spots and show you where we are. Okay, and that's where we are. And this being a sheer fabric, and this is more. There's more space between these rounds, so you can see the bottom, which is why I like to cover it with the cover the cardstock with the fabric, so that you're not seeing the actual cardstock through this. Okay, I think I'm going to go around one more time. And again, be careful with the glue because it is very, very hot. Okay. So that's what we have right now. And as you can see, just like I said, I stink at being able to actually center something. It just never seems to stay that way. So I am going to just roughly cut around this a little bit. I can clean up those edges later. And I still have a length left. I could have gone around some more if I wanted to. But I'm going to cut and leave a little bit of a tail. And I'm going to just roll that in on itself. Put a little bit of glue on it first. You can either tuck it under or roll it in on itself just to finish off the edge. Okay, so there it is. Not perfect, Okay, and you could leave it just like this if you want to. But what I did that makes it a little bit different, if you're squeamish, close your eyes. I am just going to start cutting where the folds are. And this is where you get your multiple layers. I'm just going around cutting the top. I'm basically cutting off the folded edges. And this particular fabric might not have enough body to it. But you don't know, you just don't know until you try it out. So, I mean, you do want a pair of good sharp scissors that'll go through your fabric easily. I got a little spot that lifted up, so I'm just going to tuck that down. Okay. So there it is, and then you can just play with it with your fingers and separate layers, just to loosen them up. You don't want to pull up too much because the not every single edge is glued down. So you can fluff, and if it comes up, you can push it down, put some glue in there. If you want to, you can fray the edges if you want to shabby it up a little bit more. But just play with it with your fingers and separate the layers of fabric. This doesn't want to separate real easily, but it did get a little more shape to it. So that is my take on a homemade rosette flower. And if that's still a little too tall for you, cut it down some more. And then you can just finish off the edges, clean up your circle a little bit more. Unless you're lucky enough to be able to work with a circle and actually keep a round shape. I'm not one of them. But there it is. This is the sheer fabric. And this one is the cotton, and I just backed it with a doily. So there they are. So that's my take on a rosette trim blossom. When I come back, we are going to do, where'd it go? The shabby rosette trim. I love this one, and I think you're going to like it too when you see how it starts, and you're going to go, oh, why didn't I think of that? And if you did think of it, let me know, because I'd like to give you credit, but I haven't seen your video, but it would be nice to watch it. So we will see you in a few minutes. Let me get some of this mess cleaned up, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Give it a try. Let me see what you did. Thanks. Bye-bye.